Hello, everybody. Welcome to Confidential Conversations. I am Shannon, your host. And today with me, I'm very excited to have the one and only Susanne Andrews. And if you do not know her by her actual first and last name, you'll probably recognize her by Standing for Stephen. She is the creator, the founder, the everything for Standing for Stephen. And we're going to get her entire journey through the whole process of everything she's been through over the past 2 years, a year and a half.
Year and a half. Yes.
Yeah. So, Susanne, I'm going to go ahead and let you take the floor. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I haven't done one of these in a while, so I appreciate you letting me come on. There's been a lot of questions and different things going on with the new GoFundMe Miss Sandy has set up, and with the difference between Standing for Stephen and that. And so I appreciate you being able to allow me the opportunity to kind of clarify some of these things.
I love it. I love it. And for those who aren't as familiar with this entire, and I call it a journey because it has been, that you have been on when it comes to the still unsolved and extremely unfortunate murder of Stephen Smith. You come in after the fact and were such an instrumental part of everything moving forward. So I'm going to let introduce who you are and how it all came about, what connected you to Stephen, just the whole story that I know. I want other people to know, because there is a beautiful, beautiful story there, and that'll help the viewers and the listeners understand how we progress this conversation forward.
Sure. After Maggie and Paul Murdaugh were found murdered in Moselle in 2021, several Facebook pages started popping with the Murdaugh murders, and a girl by the name of Ashley Gandy, did not know her at the time. She had posted a picture of Stephen Smith's gravesite, and it was just a little placard with his name, year of birth, year of death, and then this little ceramic cat that just absolutely broke my mama heart, and just could not imagine in 6 years that no one had come to his mother's aid, whether it was the community, friends, family, church, just anyone. It's one of those things you cannot you cannot give a good enough explanation as to why you felt, or I felt led to do what I felt I needed to do. As soon as I saw that, and I was reading about Stephen's story, he was a 19-year-old kid in County. He was gay. My father owns, I live in Columbia, South Carolina. My father owns the Capitol Club, which is one of the oldest standing private gay clubs in the Southeast. They've been in operation for over 40 years. So I immediately called my dad and asked him that if I could track down Sandy Smith, because I did not know her. I didn't know any of the Smith family. That if I could track her down and get her permission to try to raise some money for a headstone, could we hold like an event at the Capitol Club? And he got in touch with us first, got approval. I was able to track Sandy down, little Facebook stalking.
I was just going to ask you, how did you do that? Facebook stalking?
Yeah, Facebook stalking. And we had mutual friends. So I was going through some of the mutual friends just to confirm that that was the real Sandy Smith that I was looking for. So from there, Standing for Stephen bloomed, and very quickly.
And that was the hashtag that you did.
Standing for Stephen, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And now, what were you still on the Facebook page that you had originally seen?
I started a Facebook page, Standing for Stephen. I was on my own personal Facebook page and just saw all these murder pages popping up. So once my father got approval from the board members, I was able to contact Sandy and explain to her what I want. I wanted to raise money to try to help get a headstone. I thought maybe $2,000, $3,000 at the very most, that would be amazing. And it turned into this amazing conundrum of a journey. I mean, it was fast. We literally, from the evening I saw that post. It was in September of 2021. I call my father within minutes of seeing that. I get in touch with Sandy within a few days. We held a fundraiser. I want to say it was 4.5 weeks.
Is that the GoFundMe?
No, the actual silent auction we had at my father's bar. So we had a GoFundMe, and we also had a silent auction at my dad's bar. I can't remember exactly when I opened up the GoFundMe, but it was somewhere in between there. It was somewhere between September and the 1st of October.
Okay, so it was before you opened the GoFundMe before the event or after, during? Before, okay.
Before. Yes. So,
and were you shocked at the response that you received? Was it immediate?
I had no idea. It was Dawn, my friends Dawn and Edie helped me a lot. I'm an accountant. I've never done a fundraiser before. I had no idea what I was doing.
Okay.
So they helped a lot as far as like getting sponsors, and I had no idea how much I was biting off at the time. But it was very well worth it. But from the moment I really saw the picture until the first time I met Sandy was at the cemetery, Gooding Cemetery in Crocketville, South Carolina, at Stephen's grave. That was 2 weeks, I believe.
Wow, so a lot happened in 2 weeks.
The fundraiser happened 4 weeks after concept.
That's still fast. So how did you, other than the Facebook stalking, how did you make arrangements to actually meet with Sandy?
Corn. He was at the time he was with Fox Carolina out of Greenville. One of his producers, Mary Beth Jacoby, is a friend, acquaintance of mine. So that's how Cody kind of came in, and he did an interview and us literally meeting and hugging for the very first time, laying eyes on each other at the cemetery. Wow. So
that must have been a powerful moment for you.
Oh, it was. And it was so surreal that I get the goosebumps right now just thinking about it. It brought it to reality. These are real people. These are real feelings. This is a real 19-year-old that lost his life. This isn't just something you're reading out of People magazine or watching on the news. This is real. And it sunk in, and it sunk in hard. So I get there, and what I did not know, his daddy is buried next to him, and it's same situation, the little plastic placard with his name. And he passed 3 months after Stephen from a heart attack, but his heart was broken. And to the right of Stephen is a 2-month-old little boy Sandy lost years ago. So it just the surrealness of it, like actually being where Stephen is buried, and then you get there and it was unreal. It was unreal. I don't even know how to put it into words. We were there, and I was very protective of her because I didn't want to be, I was trying to do something good, I didn't want to be the source of any extra stress on her shoulders or drama. So Cody and I are now friends, but at the time I was like, you bring up the M name one time, I am grabbing her arm and we are walking out of the cemetery.
Good for you, because yeah, from everything I've seen and the different people that have done interviews, she had her door pounded on. I'm sure she was hounded. And yeah, you want to bring attention to try to, find what happened to your son and hold the people accountable for what happened before, during, and after his murder. But at the same time, there's just got to be, people are relentless, and that had to be hard for her.
Just like a bunch of ants that you stir the little ant hill, and they're just everywhere. They're just everywhere. So I did not want to be the cause of any more pain for her. So I was very protective of her, and but Cody did amazing. And like I said, he and I are friends now. He's in Atlanta at the NBC station, but he's a great guy. And so within 4 weeks of concept, we went into the auction. And down here in the South, college football in the fall is numero uno. So I had to pick out a weekend, and especially living in Columbia and the fundraiser being in Columbia, University of South Carolina games. So we had to pick a weekend that away game or bye week. And so we picked a weekend, wasn't a home game, and that just happened to fall on October 30th, right before Halloween. So we had like a Halloween costume contest. We tried bringing in a bunch of different things with it, but had Dawn Staley, USC women's basketball coach, donated an autographed basketball. I mean, we had
Wonderful.
Sig Sauer donated, which, I mean, it was a gun, but some people like that, and
nothing wrong with that.
A nice handgun. And we had like a treehouse B&B, and I mean, just all kind of amazing things. But we also had a lot of media. Netflix was there, 2020 Dateline, obviously all the local stations. We literally had to rent out the block where my dad's bar is on Gervais Street in downtown Columbia, just to handle parking,
security.
We had to rent Columbia police officers for security. It was crazy. It was crazy, but it was a good crazy.
Yeah, the attention is exactly what was needed. Now, I know, and I know this now, but when you were just in the midst of all of this and you had the GoFundMe, the Stand for Stephen GoFundMe, which, from as I understood it, was to raise money to go towards the headstone for Stephen. Mm-hmm. And then this event was just because you really have no idea what you're going to raise with the GoFundMe.
No clue. Honestly, I thought 2,000, 3,000.
Which it's more than that. So you do this extra event for awareness and for additional funds, which I imagine with all these wonderful things, additional funds were raised. At the same time, you also have expenses. Mm-hmm. If you have never done an event, I assure you, it's an undertaking as far as food, beverage, like you said, you had
T-shirts,
auction items, T-shirts, staffing it, speaking, the media, the security, the list goes on. There's an incredible amount. It's a huge expense. So yes, you do raise money, but you also have to understand, you have to pay
money to make money as well.
Exactly.
And, and a lot of people get that even with the GoFundMe. So the GoFundMe raised, and I just shut that down back in February of this year. Okay. I believe that was just a smidgen over 21,000. GoFundMe takes fees out of what you raise.
Yeah, they're not a free service.
No, they've got to make their money as well. Yeah. So they take fees out. We had, as far as the auction was concerned, T-shirts, wristband, Standing for Stephen wristbands, the little stadium cups with Stephen's picture and Standing for Stephen and all of our sponsors on it. We had the police officers, banners and magnets and flyers. I mean, there was just so much. The weekend before the fundraiser actually happened to be Pride weekend, and the Pride parade here in Columbia. And I was Jeff March. He's over the, or he was. I think he has recently resigned and turned over, but he was over the Pride of Columbia and reached out to me and asked if Stephanie, Stephen's twin, and Miss Sandy would basically be the lead car for the Pride Parade the weekend prior to the fundraiser. So we had hotel rooms for both of, the family for 2 weekends in a row, because they live in Barnwell, I'm in Columbia.
A late night, and that's understandable.
Long
Yes.
weekend. So a lot of people think that Sandy just received 40 grand. Sandy did not receive 40 grand. Sandy received the net proceeds of what was raised after expenses.
Okay. And as GoFundMe works, that just, they give it to you, you wrote a check and off it goes to Sandy, and how Sandy chose to use it was Sandy's choice and responsibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Everything went through, since my father's club is a nonprofit, everything went through his club, since that's where the auction was held, as well as the GoFundMe, and everything went to protect her for tax purposes, went through that. And my dad, once a month, maybe once every 2 months, he would stroke a check for whatever funds came through the GoFundMe, and send them to Sandy. And headstone, there were several things. We had discussed doing a scholarship fund. I don't know. I don't know. All I know is, what was done with it after that.
That was out of your hands.
Yeah.
Okay. And just for devil's advocate here, anybody watching and listening, I am sure you have receipts and documentation of all the funds, all the expenses, all the payments that went out. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm sure you're an accountant. I'm sure you did.
Yes. And it's the kicker to that, though, is never in a million years would I have thought, that's something that we would have to even think about.
You had the GoFundMe to raise money for the headstone. And I know Sandy has now started a GoFundMe for the raising money for the exhumation.
Correct.
Both of which are wonderful. Understand. But in the world of people, they see GoFundMe and they don't realize that there's two. So can you clarify, even though they're both for the same person and to help the same family, can you clarify the difference in the GoFundMe accounts?
Sure. So Standing for Stephen was one GoFundMe, which I shut down in February. And that was for the headstone and funds raised for that. Sandy opened, I guess, the new Justice for Stephen, maybe in March somewhere, but they are two complete. There's a lot of confusion. I get a lot of questions about it. When I try to clarify, I get smack about it. And if I don't clarify, I get smack about it. But they are two totally separate GoFundMes. One is no better than the other. It's just, they're just two separate ones. And I can only account for Standing for Stephen. I cannot account for the current GoFundMe that is open for the exhumation or independent investigation on Stephen's case.
That's completely understanding. You're not advocating or discrediting, just letting people know, because I've seen comments where people say, well, I already gave to for the headstone. And when you try to clarify, this is different, it's not for the headstone, this is for something else. Sometimes people perceive that as combative or what have you.
But I'm being disrespectful.
But that couldn't be further from the truth. You're just trying to clarify, giving here, even though it's closed, you can't any longer, isn't giving for there. It's two completely separate.
Actually,
financial.
Someone said, yes, it's just two completely different things altogether. And actually someone said something on a podcast last week before, that for someone that supposedly cares about Sandy and Stephen's story, to make a tweet that I did about just clarifying the difference between the two was just I can't remember the exact words, but basically awful of me. Well, no, I'm just trying to say, because and I'm also trying to take questions off Sandy and more stress and drama, and it's just simply clarifying One has nothing to do with the other. And that's all, because there are so many questions. And I was trying to, in turn, protect Sandy or prevent any more to come down on her. She has enough to deal with. So.
Well, good for you for at least trying. For the people who make derogatory comments because you were trying to clarify to the questions that you were receiving, to then turn around and try to make that some type of a negative spin. Why? It seems more that the person or persons who would have done that, maybe they have derogatory,
I don't know,
aspirations, because it's just a clarification. It's not negative at all, especially when you're answering people who have a question. You just did it publicly because you're getting so many questions. There's nothing wrong with that. And people need to stay in their lane and stop it.
That's okay. People questioning things that, about the fundraising, I did what I did not because I had to, not because I wanted to get any kind of pat on the back. It's because I wanted to as a mom. I just couldn't imagine. My son's now 18. At the time he was 16. And I still can't understand it. I still do not understand.
Yeah.
We did get his dad a headstone, and so there were expenses that came with it. And if people have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Well, I just want to say, if you haven't been thanked publicly, I will, because I think what you did was absolutely spectacular. There's so many people in the world that see need for this or a need for that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they stand up and do it. And you did. And you were a complete stranger that saw a need, and you stood up and you did something, which is, as far as I know, you're the only one, and there's a lot of people in this world that actually did. And to put together a GoFundMe and an event, and it's a huge undertaking. And through that, you develop a friendship with a woman who's lost her son, and she's still going through a lot, and you were there for her. So that makes you a really, really incredible person. So I hope, I know you don't want the pat on the back, but I'm just going to say you're a good person. And
thank you. But it took a village. It took a village. I said, I had no idea what I was biting off, but it was way more than I could chew by myself. So I had a lot of help, and I'm very grateful for everyone that stepped up and did what they could to get us through it.
So as you're going through this journey, you meet Sandy, you've seen the cemetery, the gravesite, what you're working so hard towards. So then, the money is raised, and then it goes into, and I apologize for a lack of a better wording for this, but the creation, the design of the headstone, it came out absolutely gorgeous. Talk to us through that process. Was that something done through the funeral home? Was that an outside company? Who did all of that?
It was Steedley's Monument down in Hampton County. I'm not exactly sure which town they're in, but it's Hampton County down in the Low Country, Steedley's. They did amazing, and they were phenomenal. They also, before I was able to get the GoFundMe set up, they were also getting people calling in and taking donations, and they're like, okay, we can't take any more. So
they raised money as well.
I don't know how much. I have no idea how much they raised. All I know is there was, like I said, all of this happened so quickly. There was a small time frame between people donating to Steedley's and me being able to get the GoFundMe set up through my dad's bar, that people were donating to them, but I have no idea how much or what that entails. So,
okay.
But yeah, they were amazing, and they did a fabulous job. They and Sandy both did a great job.
Now, was it who decided what it would look like? Is this something that they do? Is this having the beautifully done engraved image of Stephen? Was that Sandy's idea? How did that come about? Because it is gorgeous.
90% positive. I may be wrong, but if memory recalls correctly, they added that picture of Stephen as a surprise to Sandy.
Wow. I did not know that.
There was something on there that she did not know. And I want to say it was the engraving of his face. I'm 90% sure, but I may be wrong. And if I am, I'm sorry. But there was something on the headstone that was a surprise to her. And I'm almost positive it was the picture.
It's still a kind gesture. So, you know, kudos to them for going above and beyond as well. So when now there's a headstone, there's going to be, you know, a date that is going to be, you know, in place and the way it should be. Was that just a surreal moment to be there to actually see, from just a thought on a Facebook post to
it actually,
you were the intricate part to make that happen? That had to just be so moving.
I don't even know how to describe it. It was, yes. And it took forever just because of the supply chain issues from COVID. It took forever to get everything in for the monument. And so people were asking questions about that. Why is there not a headstone? Blah, blah, blah. And then once everything, all the materials came in, one of their engravers or laser things broke and they had to order a part. It took forever to get that. But yeah, once it got in, I asked if it was okay if Standing for Stephen hosted the unveiling, and we had some amazing speakers. We had some of Stephen's cousins. Well, one of them, there were supposed to be two, sing. It was beautiful, and it rained. And it rained. And you're out in the middle of the low country, swampy, cornfields on one side, so I was getting up to speak, and I'm looking at Sandy. HBO was there documenting it as well. I'm like, do y'all want to go ahead? And she's like, let's go for it. And as I was getting ready to speak, Ashley Gandy, the girl that posted the picture that I initially saw.
Okay.
She's like, Susanne, she came up to me afterwards and she's like, did you see that butterfly in front of your face?
I just have, the hair is standing up on me.
And there was something else that happened. Well, I took some pictures of Sandy, and I'll have to send them to you.
Big hugs coming to you right now. I can, yeah.
But I took pictures of Sandy standing in front of the monument, Stephen's monument. His dad's came in a couple of months later. And I took tons of pictures that day, tons of pictures. And the pictures I took of her standing behind that headstone, you can see a light going this, and it's only on Sandy's body. But it's going like at this angle. And I did not notice it until the ride home to Columbia that evening. I was riding with Mike Himlip, her former attorney, and we had ridden down to Crocketville together that day, and he was driving and I was just going through my photos. And I mean, I've had so many bizarre incidences like that with Stephen, like just lying in my bed a year after the fact of meeting Sandy, and I'm pulling up my weather app, which is set on location. So wherever you are is the weather it's going to give you. Crocketville pops up constantly.
He's saying thank you. I don't believe in coincidences. I
don't either.
There's a message in there. You just gotta, there's signs everywhere. You just gotta see them.
But there's several little things like that have happened. And it's been nothing but an honor and a blessing for me.
I love that. I love that part of the story, the butterfly. I can relate to that in the biggest of ways. My grandmother, miss you so much every day. Okay. She was a huge butterfly fan, and white feathers, your spirit when you're passing. She just had all of these ways about her. And I will be in my car, whether it be, once I had a convertible. It happens all the time. People have been in the car with me who have witnessed it. Windows up, no way for anything to get in, and a feather will fall on me. And it always happens at a time in my life, or maybe I'm going through something, or there's just, I don't know. It doesn't have to be anything.
You just
horrible.
need to know she's there.
She's just letting me know it's going to be, I don't know, a fight with my husband, what have you. Just all of a sudden, this feather or a butterfly will come out of nowhere. And even my husband teases me when we're hiking, or we could be in the strangest of places, and a butterfly, he calls it my butterfly escorts. They will follow me everywhere I go. It's unbelievable. So when you said butterfly, I know what that means. I know what that feels like. And that's beautiful.
And it was, I don't know if you call it a eulogy. I mean, what obviously wasn't a funeral, but whatever you want to call it, that I spoke at the unveiling. I also based it off the number 7 Bible. And Stephen died in July. We had the unveiling July. Oh gosh, I'll have to go back and look, but there were, let's see, it was the month of July, oh man, I'll have to go back and look, but there were like several sevens that fell into place. And in the Bible, 7 is a strong angel number, and it's meaning completion and fulfilling. And standing for Stephen fulfilled what it set out to do. I'm so emotional right now. I can't remember all the 7s, but
it's okay.
In Sandy's favorite Bible scripture, I was really pushing, hoping that it was going to be the 7th chapter, but it was 6. But I was close.
It's close.
But it was a pretty. Besides the rain and all the mosquitoes and gnats down in the Low Country, it was amazing. It was amazing.
Oh, I remember hearing about you and look, going to the GoFundMe and thinking, wow, this woman, I can't, I had heard not from you, there's word gets out, you had seen a post, the articles that came out. And I just kept thinking, wow, this woman is so remarkable. I'm awestruck and honored to even be speaking to the woman who did all of that back then, because you were just a name. You were a figment of an imagination, I had no face, no nothing to put to it. And then, I reached out to you, and thankful that I did. And you truly are such a remarkable woman. And to hear this story, and most of it for the first time, the butterflies, the light, all of that is so spectacular. And you haven't stopped. There's even more to your journey with Sandy and Stephen. I mean, what came next after the unveiling and, he had his headstone? What came next?
Well, next was his dad's headstone that we were able to get for him. So that was amazing to be able to do that for the family as well. Sandy and I did become very close. I mean, she would come and she stays at my house on weekends. If she has something to do, to meet with SLED or whatever here in Columbia, she'd stay at my house. She became a part of my family. And standing for Stephen became a part of me. It's become a mission for me. And I'm grateful that they have now been able to get the attention that they need to get his case ramped up even more. It's within all of this, I learned that South Carolina is one of 2 states in the country that does not have a hate crime bill. Obviously, Stephen was gay. Sandy's current attorney, Eric Bland, has come out and said that he says it's a hate crime. Whether that's the case or not, I don't know. However, I felt that the second part of standing for Stephen was to advocate on behalf of standing for Stephen for a hate crime bill for South Carolina. On top of that, my dad owns a gay club, and so I have several different reasons as to why I feel this is important. And I actually reached out to he's an acquaintance more than a friend. I've met him through some friends of mine, but he's House Representative Bobby Cox out of Greenville. And I had looked up the bill. It's H 3014. It's the Clementa Pinckney hate crime bill. And it passed through our House last year and got blocked in the Senate. Well, Representative Bobby Cox he's a Republican, and he was one of the ones that voted against it. So I call Bobby up. I'm like, hey, what's the problem here? And he and I start having long conversations about this. And I believe he also said there were some things in fine print in that bill that might have been trying to get passed under the radar, maybe.
So he wanted to trim the fat.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, he and I get to talking, and, he calls me up one day. He's like, Suzanne, I'm on board. I'll hold basically I asked him, I'm like, will you hold my hand through this? I don't know anything about anything with this.
Yeah. So walk us through that process, being part of a bill, speaking on behalf of a bill, trying to get a bill passed. When you're talking things like that, that is a very slow process.
Very slow. And we have some senators that, God love them. I respect them for their time and their duty. It's time to go home. It's time to go home. If you're going to be this old-fashioned and closed-minded.
And what are they saying that?
Well, Bobby and I got to talking, and the bill came back through the House again this year. And I testified at the State House back in February on behalf of Standing for Stephen and my dad's bar. And I gave two different analogies. One is, when I go to bed at night, not only do I lock my door, but then I turn my alarm system on. Like I'm sure probably every senator in our state, 90% of them do. Why do I need that second layer of protection? Because it makes me feel safe. Our senators are saying we already have federal level hate crime laws. Why do we need state level? Well, why do you need an alarm system if you're locking your doors? Why are we two states that are going in the opposite direction of the others? They have federal hate crime bills as well, but they also have that alarm system within the state. And then the second analogy I gave as a mom, again, because my son is the inspiration basically behind all of this, which embarrasses the hell out of him, but whatever.
Part of being a mom.
When you have a newborn, you want that baby to be in the top percentile, because that means they're growing, they're flourishing, they're where they need to be. South Carolina is in the 4th percentile when it comes to the hate crime bills. What
does that mean? The 4th percentile?
We're in the low percentile because we're only one of two states.
Okay.
So normally with a baby, you want them to be like in the 90 percentile. That means they're strong and they're gaining weight and they're flourishing. They're going in the direction they need to be going in. We're in the bottom of the percentile. South Carolina is. We're at pit level and maybe even below. And so we're not flourishing. We're not growing as a state, and we're not where we need to be in comparison to all the other states.
So if I could just interject, just so I have a better understanding, what would having a hate crime, how would that change currently if someone commits a hate crime currently, which if I know it correctly, it's, you're targeting something for a very specific reason, whether it be their color, their religion, their lifestyle, they are targeted for something that falls under the hate crime. So if there is a hate crime laws in place, the hate crime bill would then do what?
So that's part two of the issues our senators raise in their debate is, how do you get into somebody's headspace and know that this was what they did was a hate crime? Well, a lot of them leave manifestos or, social media, my thing to it is, hopefully it would be more of a preventative measure, and not saying that somebody that's going to go into a Catholic church or a gay bar or a Chinese restaurant and start shooting the place up. Not that they're going to be in the right frame of mind to process, oh gosh, if I do this, then I'm going to have more severe punishment. But you would hope it would make them stop and think for a second, I can't do this. And not that they should be doing it anyway, but there's just there's more of a barrier. There's more of a thought process behind it. And everybody is equal. Everyone matters. It doesn't matter. And when I testified at the State House, I said that, it makes me sad that as a privileged white woman and a conservative Republican, I'm having to get up here and ask for help. It's pathetic. It's just pathetic. I came from a small, Birmingham, Alabama, but both my parents are from Gadsden, Alabama, small little mill town village. And, everyone matters, but the world is changing and we have to acclimate to it as much as possible and not stick our head in the sand. So,
I agree. And if someone's going to say, why have a hate crime bill? Well, if it exists, I would imagine having one at the state level would add additional time.
Yes, punishment. Again, I'm not a politician. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how it works as far as what would be added onto it. It's more of a personal thing to me that, we're marching in the opposite direction of all the other states, period. It just doesn't make sense. And there should be repercussions. And actually, there was a gentleman that also testified when I was there, and he was with the Jewish community somewhere, I want to say out of Charleston or Beaufort. And he made an analogy of what hate crime bills do mentally what hate crimes do mentally to people after the fact. And he gave the example, and this is so elementary and simple, but it says everything. But he said, if someone were to go and vandalize a playground and spray paint a smiley face, it's vandalism. They put a happy face on with spray paint. If somebody were to go to that same playground and spray paint a swastika, there is a huge difference on the impact of that smiley face versus the swastika.
It's very true.
So there should be tougher crimes or tougher penalties for those crimes. So
what's the pushback that you're getting other than why bother? What is the, you've given the pros, what are the cons? What is the meat of why this is, being
hopefully
questioned?
prevention of these hate crimes taking place. And if they do, then by George, they're going to be held to the highest account of the law as possible.
Well, that's the plan of getting it passed. Mm-hmm. What do you feel is the pushback for people not saying, wow, that's a great idea, let's go for it?
Oh, old school way of thought. I am not perfect. There's a lot of things I need to update in my own brain and probably reset. This has just become personal to me. So it's a mission. I wish I could get out there and fix everything or try to fix everything. That's not happening. I wish I could take in every stray animal, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I just feel that it's right. Right is right. Wrong is wrong. And it doesn't matter. I mean, there's hate crimes against so many different people for so many different reasons. And
everything that Susanne spoke about today, the event, I will be inserting the photos, links to different things that she spoke about, definitely links to the hate crime bill so you can read more about it on your own. Everything absolutely that was discussed today will be below us in the show notes. So take the time, take a look through it, and get involved.
Yes, and South Carolina, all signatures matter, but we need South Carolinian signatures on the petition on change.org. It's hate crime bill standing for Stephen SC. Call your local representatives, your local senator, let them know what you want and why you want it. Like, they've got to stop ignoring us. I know this isn't the politically correct thing to say, but even there's hate crimes against white people. I got basically assaulted at a gas station a couple of months ago, and this woman got in my face calling me a cracker. I didn't know what a cracker even meant. I thought she meant like a saltine cracker. Because I held the door open for her and her child going into the gas station, and apparently I was following in too close behind her. And I mean, she was threatening to kill me. I mean, so it's across the board. It's not just the LGBTQ. It's not just Blacks. It's Chinese. It's Catholics. It's Asians. It's across the board.
The world has a lot of hate in it right now.
Matter.
Yeah, every life does. Yeah. Yeah, that's, I've had to deal with unfortunate, completely uncalled for attitude, just walking past somebody. Yeah. You know, why get into a verbal sparring match? I'm just walking. But it happens. It does happen. And you just try to rise above it. You can't explain it. So you just try to.
Well, my blind self, I was like, are you talking to me? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, and that agitated her even more because I truly did not know. But yeah, I mean, it's sad, but it's reality. And even if Stephen's death was not a hate crime or related to a hate crime, I wholeheartely believe, not that I know Stephen or knew Stephen, but I wholeheartedly believe he would support this 1001%. No questions asked. Because I do know that he was there for several of his friends coming out and supported them and loved them and held their hands through it. So, you know, I cannot speak for Stephen, and I will not, but I can speak for standing for Stephen. And hopefully, and actually, the House did pass in March, H 3014. It's back in the Senate. Last week, a senator, I don't know who yet, I'm going to find out, basically threw down the gauntlet and filed an objection, I believe, so that the bill can't be even heard or discussed on the floor.
Why? Again, I don't understand all the politics
either.
But is someone trying to shut it up? Is, you know, you just have to.
It's, you know, like, I don't know. Okay, so it says that the Clementa C. Pinckney Hate Crimes Act came up on the Senate calendar, and at least one South Carolina senator threw down an objection, so it could not be voted on or debated. So I don't know. I am going this evening to a fundraiser. It's a leadership committee with a friend of mine that's a lobbyist, and actually I believe Representative Cox will be there as well. So we will be discussing that a little further tonight, and hopefully I'll have more information. But
you're going to be digging around in that one. So was was the hate crime bill already prepared and you heard about it and then you wanted to put your voice behind it? Because you mentioned the name of it. Who is that named after?
That is named after a senator of ours that was killed in the Emanuel 9 in Charleston back in 2015, same year Stephen was killed. Where Dylan Roof, I believe, was the kid's name, actually here from Columbia, went down to Charleston, and it was a Black church. And so the hate crime bill is named after Senator Pinckney. We are trying to get standing for Stephen, and if family will permit, Stephen's name as an advocate for the Clementa C. Pinckney.
So he would be in
An
memory.
honoree, basically, like just I mean, we can't get the bill changed to Stephen's name. Obviously, he's not going to trump a senator, but nor would I want to try to do that. But I would love to have him recognized in the bill as an advocate.
And how do you go about doing that? I know you said if the family permits. Is there a process for that?
I don't want to be disrespectful and use Stephen N. Smith's name without having permission. However, I can use standing for Stephen, since that was my little baby, I guess, so to speak. I don't know about that, but
take credit.
But I want. There were too many good people, and still continue to be so many good people, that gave so much time and effort and money. They don't need to be forgotten as well, like for standing for Stephen and what all they did to help us accomplish what we did and how quickly we did it. And, there were several tips that came in to me. When I shut down the GoFundMe in February, I also went on and shut down Standing for Stephen Facebook page for several different reasons. But it was like turning a valve off. I almost felt like I was literally sawing my own arm off. But I had so many, I don't want to say so many, I had several leads and tips come in through Standing for Stephen that I have personally taken to SLED.
Wonderful.
So I pray to God, I don't know. I have not revisited the new tip line thing that I guess the new GoFundMe is, but it went to SLED. It went to, they all went to, one was a captain at SLED. And one was also with the investigator that was over Stephen's case. I don't know if he still is or not, but hopefully those are in the right hands. And I've got the documentation of it as well. So
you did the right thing. You passed on the leads that you had received. You and you alone know what those are. Do you have any inclination if they've been followed up on?
I have no idea.
Interesting.
No.
Now, go ahead.
I'm trying to I will not jeopardize Stephen's case, but I do believe the answers are out there, and I almost feel as if it's staring all of us right in the face. It's just almost you can't see the forest for the trees, so to speak. But I just pray that they get the answers. I mean, they deserve them. Anyone would deserve them. But this is a crazy long ride for them. So for the Smith family.
Yeah. You talk about your son. I have a son, I have a daughter, I have kids. And if something ever happened to them, something as horrible as what happened to Stephen, I could not even fathom how I could even continue.
Get out of bed. I mean,
yeah.
I can't even.
So I know a lot. There was, if there's people who have chatter on different avenues per se, on whether do you exhume? Do you not exhume? What could be found? What's the point? Is you have to do it. You shouldn't do it. Look, if you're a parent, you're going to exhaust all efforts to try to find out what happened to your child. So
you turn over every rock, pebble, stone.
Yeah. So if nothing came out of exhuming my child's body, at least I would know there was nothing more to learn. But I would not try. What parent doesn't try everything? So I can completely understand why Sandy chose to exhume Stephen's body. From what I understand from the people who were involved that did talk about it, they seem to be happy with what they were able to do. That doesn't necessarily mean they found anything new or something that's going to suddenly solve the case, but they were happy with what they could obtain forensically, which is great. You just want some peace and a peace of mind for Sandy. Absolutely. When Stephen went back to his final resting place, that, she had at least some type of answers. It was better than the unknown. She had some known.
You can deal with what you know. You cannot deal with what you do not know.
Yes.
And at least, like you said, if it's nothing, which I pray to God it's not, at least she knows she did absolutely everything possible to make it happen. And I know I get choked up with it, but I had several people reach out about the headstone being removed, and they were so worried about it getting cracked, or that maybe it wasn't removed, like maybe they weren't so gentle with it removing it. And I was like, no, it's good. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. And I feel that it's going to be good with answers as well.
Good. Good. Got to watch for those butterflies and feathers and streams of light.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You just never know what's creeping around the corner that you just have to pay attention to, and you have to listen and be grounded with yourself and trust your instincts. And I feel like that's what I did with the whole concept of standing for Stephen, and I wouldn't change it, no matter how much grief I may get about certain things or not certain things, or you should have done A instead of Z. There's not one thing I would change.
Good.
Not one thing I would change.
Well, I think you're an incredible person. I am so grateful for the friendship that's developed.
Absolutely.
Just watching, this whole journey evolve around you, and it never ceases to change. And hopefully one of these days, just another evolvement will be one step closer to, answers and the family finding what it is that they've been looking for so long.
Absolutely. And as I have said 10,000 times, I don't care how small a tidbit of information you think you may have on Stephen's case, or how irrelevant you may think it may be, please contact law enforcement, SLED, someone that you trust, and get it out there, and let's get it in the right hands and help this family get some answers. It's been an honor for me, and a learning lesson as well. So,
well, Sandy and Stephen were very lucky that you were a stranger that entered their world and changed it for the better.
And I'm the lucky one. I'm the lucky one.
You're a good person. You're a very good person. I want to be
in their shoes. So
yeah.
Or Sandy's.
There's a special, very special place for you.
And the bottom line is hopefully we all want the same thing, and we want answers, and we want Sandy and Stephanie and the rest of the family to have a smidgen of peace. There will never be closure. They've lost a son, a child, a brother, uncle. There will never be closure, but she can have a smidgen of peace, even if that's just for 24 hours. God love her. Let her have it. So,
yeah, let's hope for that.
Yes.